Hello, hello, hello. Hey, divas. Welcome to Pink Table Book Club. Please let me know if you can hear me. If you're listening in and as you're coming in, let me give you just a few minutes. Let me rearrange some things on my desktop. Let me know if you're coming in, if you can hear me. Hey, Rosemary, how are you, sis? Thank you so much for pulling up to the table. Please let me know if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me, please. Put a 1 in the chat. Happy Saturday. How is everybody doing? Let me get myself situated. Thank you for coming in, for listening in. Hey, Mama V. Mama V says she can hear me. Hello, hello. Hey to my book divas. Welcome back to the Pink Table Book Club, where sisterhood meets storytelling. I am your host and good sis, Pink Diva. Thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday afternoon. I appreciate you all for allowing me to push the date back. I'm so glad to have each of you here as we gather for another meeting. Y'all know at this table, we don't just read books, we explore the lessons, the emotions, and the truth that live between the lines. This is our space, y'all, to laugh, to reflect, and to grow through stories that challenge us, entertain us, and sometimes even convict us. Today, as we open the pages of our featured book, Mistress for Hire, which is book 5 of the Mistress series, I invite you all to show up and make sure you drop down and engage in the discussion. Your thoughts and insights, your questions, all help make this meeting all the more better. This is our no judgment zone. We listen and we don't judge over here. It's just sisterhood, storytelling, and shared perspectives. So y'all get ready, relax, and let us dive into this juicy read. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How is everybody doing? I missed you all so much. And again, I appreciate you all for allowing me to be able to push the date back. I was sick last week. If you probably can hear it in my voice, I'm slowly trying to get back to normal. But I was sick last week, y'all. I mean, it had me down. I don't know what it was that I had. Excuse me. I don't know what it was that I had, but it had me down. I was aching all over. I felt horrible. But I am here. I am here. I was like, oh my gosh, I hate to have to push book club back, but I had to push it back because I could hardly talk. Excuse me. I could hardly talk. So y'all keep me in your prayers. I am feeling a whole lot better than I was. Um, but I had to keep moving. I didn't actually have an opportunity to like sit down and really just rest as I was taking my meds because I had events that customers had paid for, so I had to still get up and make it do what it do, like we always do. But nonetheless, we are here again. Thank you all so much for your patience as we were able to get everything pushed back. But as you know, our book of the month is Mistress for Hire. This is the 5th series in the book. We have one more, y'all. Just one more series, one more book in this series, and we will have completed the entire 6-book series, which means we are on the road to being 6 months in with our book club. Excuse me. And I appreciate each and every one of you all for being a part. Without you, it would not be. So I appreciate you all for being a part of it and for reading. I hope you're enjoying the books. And before we get started, y'all know we have to start from 1 to 10. Let me know, how did you enjoy the book from 1 to 10? What do you give the book? This was a juicy one. It was a juicy one. We were able to enjoy, or we were able to get to know a little bit more in depth about Jezebel, the situation with the baby, and all of that stuff. Excuse me. So we were able to find out a little bit more. Rosemary says she gives it a 9. It was good. I think I give it around that as well. It was really good. Our author did a really, really good job of, bringing everything to the table. She didn't really leave anything unanswered. She didn't really leave anything unanswered. So she really closed the book up, opened it with the bang. Like she went right in. She went right in. Miss Lady said, "Hey sis, I'm in the bushes driving right now." Okay, sis, thank you so much for listening in. Be careful. But she went right into, like, opened everything with the bang, and I appreciate that about her. Excuse me if I have to go on mute, y'all. Excuse me, I have to cough. I don't want to be coughing all in your ears and stuff, but I think she did a really, really, really good job of just pulling everything together. Y'all hear my papers? I have probably about 15 pages. When I say I was taking notes, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. So the prologue started with, we know somebody was getting out of the hospital. At the time, we had no idea. We just knew someone was getting out of the hospital at the time. And we noticed that this person had a photo of Jezebel. And when the person was getting out of the car, the driver called her by the name Miss Smith. So at this point, we're trying to figure out who in the world was Miss Smith, right? So she came right in, giving us a little bit of suspicion. Then we goes into chapter 1, where Jessa's daughter Delaney is now 4 years old. Um, we realized that Jessa's mom had a bipolar disorder. Jessa was raised by her grandmother since the age of 6. So the author was giving us a little background about Jessa. At this point, it had been 5 years since she had left Richmond Hills. Jessa again started reminiscing about her situation with Eric and him unaliving himself. She also spoke about her newfound fame after the whole scandal, her being able to open her business, writing a book, and all of those things. She started her business with Keegan. You remember Keegan? Excuse me. Keegan was the interior designer that she had when she was in Richmond Hill. So they formed a relationship, a great friendship, and Keegan ended up becoming her business partner. She started the business because, of course, she was trying to redeem herself, thinking that, hey, I did so much bad in my life with the things that I did with my friends, Aria, Jamie, and Renee. So now she wanted to try to redeem herself and start the business. They went on into doing a hiring process to find women to work at Mistress Inc. That was the name of the business. The first two people that she hired was Lacey and Charlie. At the time, we had no idea of who these people were, right? So then we go on into chapter 2. So at this point, just a question for those of you that are listening in. At this point, when the start of the book when we were at the start of the book and the person was getting out of the hospital, getting into the car that had the photo of Jessa, did you all wonder who this individual was at this point? Did you wonder? I was kind of thinking, like, now who in the world would be popping up with the photo of Jessa? But all at this point, though, because of the history of Jessa, we had no, it could have been anybody at this point. So I wouldn't have been surprised, but I was when we did find out. So anyway, we go into chapter 2, which ended up being 2 months later, right? Jessa started thinking about the daughter that she never had the opportunity to meet. She was born from being raped by her father. Georgia was the name of the baby. Yes, Rosemary. I was very curious, like, who could this be? Georgia was the baby's name. And at this point, it had happened over 20 years ago, but she still was struggling with the pain of everything that happened. This was the point that I realized that Miss Smith was Georgia. This is when I was like, oh, I was wondering who this person was. So then I was like, okay, so this person is Georgia. So this is where Georgia pops into the picture. Jessa went on to say that she never tried to look for Georgia when Eric's dad had the information. She wanted her to have a good life, considering that, the way that she was conceived. She didn't want to interrupt the relationship or the life that Georgia was living. But my thing was, at this point, and I want to ask you all, did you all start to feel sorry for Jessa when she talked about her mom leaving her and her dad taking her innocence? At this point, her husband, she had lost her husband. She had a daughter out there that she had never met, and all of these things. Did you all and given we know the history of Jezebel, but at this point, just hearing all of these things that had happened and transpired in her life, and we're not excusing the behavior, but did you all have a little bit of a little bit of feeling sorry for her, just a little bit? I kind of felt sorry for her because that was a lot, but that does not excuse her behavior. And I know people say hurt people, but you have a choice. She didn't have to do the thing she did, but I did feel sorry for her right here at this point. So I kind of felt sorry for her. So we talked about she joined the church, right? Yes, it was very devastating, Rosemary. So she talked about joining the church, how she paid her tithes. She started her business to provide. She wanted to provide a service to marriages, and bringing forgiving her mom. She was in the right path and being good. Like, she was really showing, like, I'm trying, I'm going to church. She was having counseling sessions with the pastor. Like, she was really in the point of trying to do right. And you can tell that she was really bothered by her past, and she was thinking more and more about Georgia because she kept dipping in and out, wondering, how was Georgia? What kind of life was she living? She went to the church to meet with Pastor Dale. That was the name of the pastor, to talk about Georgia. She shared that she didn't want to find her because of, how she was conceived. And, the pastor was kind of taken aback because he didn't understand why she didn't want to try to find her. But, I could kind of understand where she was coming from when she was saying that she didn't want to find her, because she kind of didn't want to interrupt her life per se. So I could kind of see where she was coming from. Hey, Lady Sweetness. She says, good morning, Pink Diva and Divas. Thank you for being here, sis. We appreciate you. Excuse me. So we could kind of, see and understand where she was coming from. Then we go on over into chapter 3. Jessa and Hammer. Hammer was the private investigator that was working at Mistress Inc. And Jessa and Hammer had decided to take things to the next level. So they had been sneaking around. Nobody knew. She shared that she hadn't experienced real love since her previous husband, but the more they spent time together, she was starting to have feelings for him. Charlie walked in. You remember Charlie was one of the first agents that she hired at Mistress Inc. And Charlie, remember, almost caught Jessa and Hammer in her office. And Charlie walked in and she picked up the underwear that was off the floor. And Jessa kind of tried to play it off as if Charlie didn't really know what was going on. Jessa had some folders on her desk, and when she picked them up, to my surprise, y'all, we see she had been saying, she had been spying on her old friends. So at this point, I'm like, girl, you still checking for Jamie, Aria, and Renee? The folders on her desk was folders that she had on Jamie, Renee, and Aria. So I was sitting there like, why are you still, at this point, why are you still bothering those women? You no longer live in Richmond Hills. What is your obsession? Like, at this point, I'm pissed off at her again. Like, did y'all wonder, like, why you got folders on, them at this point? She found out that the ladies had some more secrets because she had Hammer investigating them. So she found out that they had more secrets, and she found out that one of their husbands were cheating again. I was like, darn, Jessa. I was like, yes, she was being sweet, Lady Sweetness. She was being messy. I'm like, why do you even care at this point? Like, you have your business, you are doing your thing, you say you're trying to do good, you got your baby, your mom living with you. Like, at this point, leave those ladies alone. Yes, Miss Lady, she was doing too much. And I'm like, girl, you still worried about these women. So she found out that one of the husbands were cheating. So about a week later, Jessa took girl had the nerve to take her tail back to Richmond Hill. So this let me know that, okay, she's still being messy and she's just keep trying to hide behind the church saying that she was trying to do right. But she went to Richmond Hills, and you remember she was parked outside of the gate, but she decided not to go in. Excuse me, she decided not to go in. So instead, she ended up going over to the spa. And to much to our avail, she ended up running into Kitty. I remember Kitty is Eric's mama. So she ended up running into Kitty Hall at the spa, and they ended up having a little altercation. And Jessa was talking to herself, remembering that she had a little secret that she was holding on to. But she and Kitty had some words. Kitty was blaming her for Eric. And I was sitting there like, okay, now, Kitty, you know your son. You know Eric was just as crazy as a Bessie bug. So it was not Jessa's fault that, the fool ended up unaliving himself. But anyway, that's a mother. That's to be understood. They were having their little confrontation or what have you. Then it went into Renee ended up grabbing the files and realized that it was her husband. So anyway, wait a minute, I think I skipped something. So anyway, Jessa said that she had this information, but she would hold off on exposing what Eric's dad had tried to do to her because the mom was blaming her for Eric's situation. And you remember Kitty was hidden below the belt. Kitty started mentioning, that Jessa had an oldest daughter that she never knew about or what have you. So she was hidden below the belt. And Jessa was trying to remain, focused, saying that she wouldn't pull out her little evidence at the time. And I remembered, if you remember the last book, she ended up recording Eric Hall Sr. trying to come on to her. You remember she had the recording in the teddy bear? So that was her little piece of secret that she was trying to keep. But she said she wouldn't bring that out right now. So then that took her into reminiscing on the lies that Eric had told her about leaving Jamie. And she remembered the text message that she had sent all of the ladies and all of that stuff. And she ended up going to the restaurant. You remember she ended up going to the restaurant in Richmond Hills, and she ended up running into Jamie, Renee, and Aria walking into the restaurant. And I was sitting there like, Jessa, please don't go in there disturbing these ladies. And I'm sitting there at this point, I'm still like, what is your obsession with these ladies? Anyway, she ended up going into the restaurant, and Jamie was the first one to spot her. And when they all realized that it was Jezebel that was walking up, they all knew she was about to be on some BS. And I was like, girl, please don't do this in this restaurant. And y'all know Aria was already on 10 as soon as she saw her. And the thing is, I didn't like the way she just forced herself into their space, because remember it said she just walked over to their booth and just took a seat and asked if she hadn't caused enough damage. And mind you, this has been 6 years ago. The whole the infamous text message, this was 6 years, right? Lady Sweetness says, I was hoping somebody with a two-piece. Girl, I was hoping Aria would have jumped up. You hear me? And they asked her what she wanted, and she basically said she was trying to make amends for what she had done to them. That's why she was there. In her little mind, what she was doing now, what she was into, was her trying to make amends. And Jessa mentioned how it was really Aria that she didn't trust out of all the ladies. She said, I was like, why do you care at this point? At this point, Jessa mentioned that one of the ladies deserved to know the truth about their relationship. And the ladies said in unison, here we go again. I was like, Jessa, at this point, why do you even care? If that man is cheating, let that man cheat in peace. Let whoever husband it was, let them do whatever it is they're doing. It's none of your business at this point. And I don't think that she realized that this wasn't a great way of trying to make amends for what she had done. The last book, I think, ended with her apologizing to them, asking for forgiveness, whether they forgave her or not. That's where she should have left it. But the fact that you still out here trying to have these ladies investigated just to try to prove a point or to fake make amends was just crazy to me. So anyway, she placed those folders on the table, and that's when Renee grabbed the files, and she realized at that point that it was actually her husband that was cheating. At this point, y'all, I started to really feel sorry for Renee, because I'm like, girl, this is the second husband. You remember the first husband was cheating. Now this is the second husband, and I was like, girl, because remember she got divorced and now she remarried, and she remarried to now the new husband. His name was Davin, and this is the one that was cheating. Lady Sweetness says she thought that was that because she was going to church, everything was good. Absolutely, and I got that written down. That's exactly what she thought. She thought that because she was attempting to walk the straight and narrow, that now everything was going to be good. That's exactly what she was thinking. Then the ladies went into asking Jessa how she actually obtained this information. So she had to tell them that she had been checking up on them and hoping that they all, bounce back after all the chaos that she caused by sending a text message. So basically, she was saying, I was having y'all investigated only because I was trying to see if y'all actually were able to repair your relationships and move on and move forward after me sending that text message. She basically apologized for all the drama that she had caused yet again, but said she really wasn't trying to do that again. She really wanted to um, try to help Renee figure out that her husband was actually cheating. And at this point, and my question to you, do you think she was honestly trying to do the right thing at this point? Do you think she was honestly trying to do the right thing? My thing was she could have possibly in her little mind could have possibly been trying to do the right thing, but I just think like wrong road. This wasn't your fight. Like you did the damage. You asked for excuse me, you asked for forgiveness before. Let it be that. Like, leave the ladies alone. Like you don't owe them anything at this point. Whatever is going on in their marriage does not concern you, right? So I felt like she should have just left it alone. She shouldn't have went back down that road because whether she had good intentions for what she was trying to do or not, they were automatically going to revert back to what she initially did the first time. Remember, we were supposed to be friends. This was supposed to be our friend that did all of this. Now we go back into Georgia. Georgia comes back into the picture. She goes into explaining how she had met her mother, Jezebel, but she didn't even know it. Jessa didn't recognize her because remember, Jessa said she didn't want to see her because she didn't want to ruin her life. Miss Lady says, I'm sorry, Lady Sweetney says, I think it was her intentions, but she didn't know she messed up the relationship. Absolutely. She could have had good intentions, but I just think, again, you coming in this way yet again, trying to prove that one of the husbands were cheating. I just don't think that was the right road. And my thing was, if you had information, don't include all of the ladies. If you was going to go to somebody, you should have just went to the parties involved, which was just Renee. So I think that's why it was a little bit hard to accept at that point. Anyway, Georgia went into, she talked about how she had ran into Jessa several times, hoping that she would see something in her that made her recognize her. And she was hurt and angry. And she also talked about how she had OD'd in the past and that scared her. So apparently, with everything that was going on in Georgia's life, she had OD'd, and she said that had scared her and that she had been clean for 6 months in rehab at this point. Georgia said that her goal was to get revenge on Jessa because it was Eric Hall Sr.'s tale that had came to her home and gave her all the information that she needed on Jessa, but told her that Jessa had lost custody of her because of neglect and abuse. So Georgia just took what Eric Hall Sr. had told her. So in her mind, she made it up in her mind that, Jessa didn't want her. She was shattered. She said that she always wondered why she gave her up and her life was hell, and she longed to know more about her mom. She said that she had actually researched Jessa online and found out about her life. She was even more bitter when she found out that she had another sister, and she had another sister that Jessa was actually raising. And she said she read Jessa's book and she got even more enraged because she wasn't mentioned in the book. So she hated Jessa. She didn't know anything about her father, but she hated Jessa. Yes, Lady Sweetness, that Georgia was something else. You hear me? So she hated Jessa. She hated Jessa on the strength of what the seed that Eric Hall Sr. had planted. and he did what he sought out to do. He set out to plant this seed. So now Georgia has all this built up animosity toward Jessica. But I always wonder, like, and I get the situation, and I get her being upset, angry, because I've never dealt with whole adoption thing, but I know a lot of people who have, and they start to feel a certain kind of way when they were giving up, especially when other children came behind them and they ended up keeping that child but gave them away. So I understood that, but I just didn't understand why she had all this animosity for Jessa just alone, and not even the father, because as we got into it, she kept excusing the father. Well, he was a dad. Dads do that all the time. They come and go. But a mother, when you carry a child for 9 months and still give them up. So I was like, now you got all this heat for Jessa, but you don't have any for the father. And there was a lot that she didn't know. Anyway, we go into chapter 4. That opens up with Hammer. Remember, Hammer was asking Jessa about her affair with Eric. Lady Sweetness says, but I would never sleep with my mom. Girl, on no given day. Girl, I was so upset with that. I said, now, heifer. Now, that was a little much. Now, I get that you want to get some get back, but that was a little too... That, and I always wondered, because remember, she kept talking about she was setting out to get some revenge. I always wondered how she was going to strike. I never suspected that she was going to do it by trying to sleep with Hammer. So we open up with Hammer asking her about Eric's affair. Remember, he said they had been together. They had never talked about it. She wanted to know why, after 3 years, did he want to know information about what happened to her and Eric. So at that point, they were becoming an item. So I was sitting there like, okay, well, it's normal for him to want to know more about your past, or you both knowing about each other's past, because you hadn't talked about it. Rosemary said, I'm still here. However, I can't see the comments, and I don't know if you can see mine. I can see your comments, sis. I can see yours. I can see you. I can see you. Then Renee. So Renee, Renee comes to visit with Jessa at her office. I was like, what? I was so shocked. Was y'all shocked that Renee actually showed up at Jessa's office? Jessa was surprised as well. She was there too. But Renee wanted to know who her husband's mistress was. Lady Sweetness says she can see you as well, Rosemary. Renee showed up. She wanted to know who her husband's mistress was. And she told her that she had that information. So Jessa told her that I do have that information. And she told her that the mistress was his new secretary. Did that piss y'all off? And I'm sitting there like, okay, girl, the last husband was cheating with the secretary. Now the new husband. Like, what in the world is going on with these secretaries? And then at my point, and we dare not blame ourselves for these cheating Negroes, but I'm side-eyeing Renee like, girl, what do you keep finding these men in? I'm like, girl, the same scenario yet again with your husbands and these freaking secretaries. So Renee was basically there willing to pay Jessa for her service, but Jessa said, you know what? She just wanted her to forgive her. So basically, Jessa was saying, I'm doing this for you basically as a favor. And all I ask is that you just forgive me for the chaos that I caused in your marriage, the first time around when I sent that text message. She said, I'm trying to get back, at the current husband, who is also married. And Jessa said that makes her a mistress too. So basically, Renee had been sneaking around with the ex-husband because she was trying to get back at the current husband. So I was sitting there like, okay, so you are a mistress too. So basically, and that's what Jessa called her out on. So you a mistress because your ex-husband is married and you over there sleeping with him. He's a married man, just on some get back to your current husband. So Jessa was like, oh, okay, so now you are a mistress too. Miss Lady said, I can only see Miss Rosemary's comment. Y'all may have to go out and come back in. You may have to refresh or go out and come back in, because we can see you all. We can see your comments. So you all may have to refresh or go out and come back in. Then you may be able to see everything. But we can see you all. We can see. So now we go into, and let's keep in mind at this point, this is where I put in parentheses Lacey Adams. This is where I start having a side eye for Lacey and thinking, like, could this be Georgia? Could this be Georgia? So then we moves on. Just to start to think about, Georgia again. She felt guilty for raising Delaney and not being able to do the same for Georgia. She wondered if she should look for Georgia at this point. She was like, oh Lord, she's about to find out she's working for her. So I was paying attention to the dollars. I was sitting there looking at this business, Mistress Inc. They was clocking some money for these services, $25,000 for her service, and they had to pay $15,000 up front. Girl, I'm like, oh, so you doing the darn thing. Rosemary says, not only have I exited to refresh, I rebooted my device and I still have the same results. I'm sorry. We can see you. I'm not sure what is going on, but we can see your comments. Lady Sweetness says, I was trying to figure out who she was. Right. Yeah, they was banking. I was trying to figure out who she was too, because that name, I always try to pay attention when the author keep putting emphasis on certain names. So I kind of like highlighted this, like Lacey Adams. And I'm like, okay, is she actually Georgia? So anyway, we move on to Jessa having another counseling session with Pastor Dale. She explained she was telling him that she had a private investigator spying on the old friends, Aria, Jamie, and Renee. And I was glad when he called her out. He said, this is what he said to her. He said, you are too caught up in the lives of people who has no desire for you to be in their lives. I'm like, thank you, Pastor, for calling her out on that, because why are you worried about these women? And Jessa was asking the pastor why he never met with her in his office. So you keep in mind, he always met with her out in the congregation area. He never met with her in the office. And he was like, girl, you know why? He said he felt more comfortable meeting with her in the sanctuary. He basically said he didn't want to be tempted. That's exactly right, Lady Sweetness. Her chats with Pastor Dale was a mess. Listen, Pastor Dale was trying hard to not succumb to temptation, honey. He was like, we're going to meet her out here in the open, no closed doors. No closed doors. Then we went into Hammer doing the surprise proposal for Jessa. Remember, she showed up at home and her mama told her to let's go to a walk in the backyard. So he ended up having like a surprise proposal for her. She started, so then we go into chapter 6, started with her running into the elevator guy. Did y'all remember the elevator guy that she always saw every time she stepped into the elevator? This is where I started side-eyeing him, because I knew it was something. I didn't know what was happening down the road, but I just knew. I was like, okay, this is suspicious that she keep running into this same guy, and the way she always talked about how he would be eyeing her while they were on the elevator. Then you remember she got a call from her publisher. Lydia called her telling her that she had an offer for Jessa to turn her book into a movie. And Jessa said she wasn't really interested because she was no longer interested in living her life out loud like that. She didn't want to have anything else to do with that because she had gotten her business started and she was cool with where everything was. Then Mr. Sachs ended up coming into the, yes, the white boy, girl. Girl, I was like, okay. Mr. Sachs ended up coming to the office because he found out Jessa had helped his wife find out that he was cheating. And did y'all laugh when Jessa had snatched that little man up by his balls? Girl, I was so tickled. So he ended up coming in. Jessa and Keegan had a disagreement about the business. Jessa had to remind her that she started her business. And I was remembering, I said, okay, Jessa and Keegan, I could kind of like, I sensed a little glimpse of animosity that Keegan always had. And I just, even in the last book, I can notice, like, I was like, okay, she needs to keep her eyes on Keegan. Because it was, to me, it was always something deep down about Keegan, although she was, portraying to be a really, really good friend to Jessa, I just felt like it was something off with her. That I did. Did y'all feel like it was just something off with her? But anyway, she had to remind Keegan, like, girl, this is my business. And Keegan remembered that she saw the ring. Remember, she was trying to hold the ring. She kept taking the ring off and putting it in her bra because she didn't want people to know that she and Hammer was sleeping around, because she and Keegan had made a pact that neither one of them would sleep. Yes, Keegan was her only friend. Even going against the grain, right? Keegan remembered that she had saw the ring on Jessa's finger when she was out in the foyer. And that's when Jessa realized that she had forgot to take the ring off. At this point, she went ahead and told her that Hammer had proposed to her. Yes, Rosemary, Mr. Sex incident was hilarious. Keegan, of course, was confused, and Keegan explained that she felt a ton of emotion. She was hurt, she was betrayed, because they had agreed again the Hammer was off limits, and Jessa had told her that she wanted her, to be happy for her. And right there is when I was like, do you think Keegan had a right to be mad? Do y'all think that Keegan should have been mad at Jessa for sleeping around with Hammer after they had decided not to? And this is where, remember, Keegan had a lot of stuff that she needs to get off her chest. And, she was pissing Jessa off because, Jessa didn't want to hear it. Keegan doubled back to tell Jessa that now she was wondering what everybody else used to tell her about her was true, to stay clear of her. And she also wanted, to see the ring. But, she kind of always had it in the back of her mind, like what everybody was saying. Like, are they right about Jessa, or is there a side of Jessa that they just didn't know? So she was kind of like second guessing their friendship. And like Lady Sweetness says, Keegan was her only friend. Like, literally, that was her only friend. Then we goes into come back again to Georgia. Back to Georgia. She was parked outside of the home where she was raised. Remember, she popped up at the house that she was raised in. She said that she should be grateful that her adoptive parents took her in. She said they gave her a good, really, really good life. They were very nice to her, but she was still unable to receive it. You know how sometimes, people can love you and really, really want the best for you. And regardless of what they do, if you still got some stuff to deal with on the inside, you won't really receive it and be able to really accept it. And that's where Georgia was. She said that, she was a fool for thinking that Jessa gave her up because she was struggling, with a low income job, and gave her up to have a better life. So, again, she's going back into trying to contemplate why in the world would her mom give her up for adoption. Lady Sweetness says Jessa was exactly everything everyone said she, and still is, girl. She even on the vengeance now. She back. Georgia says she remembered that Jessa's house was bigger than the one she grew up in, and she had more than enough room for her. So again, she back to like, why did she give me up? And I understood completely where she was coming from. Do you remember what age Georgia was when she was adopted? Did y'all remember? And it took her a long time to kind of like, come into this. And again, I think Georgia would have been fine with her life as it was if that darn Eric Hall hadn't popped up at her doorstep telling her this stuff about Jessa. And based on what she was saying, she had a seemingly good life, right? She said that she went to private school. She was in chess. She did fencing. She did debate classes and swim classes. She said she got her first car at 16, and she had all the designer gowns, and she spent her summers abroad, but she still felt inadequate. She started getting high at the age of 13, saying she was trying to fit in with the rich and privileged kids. And she was like, and the thing is, her adoptive parents never caught on to it. Yes, once the grandmother passed away. And she said, so the adoptive parents never caught on to the things she was doing. Excuse me, I had to cough. So my question is, what did y'all think when Georgia kept saying she was watching Jessa and that she would soon make a move? And because she wanted Jessa to pay for abandoning her, what y'all thinking she was up to? Because I'm like, okay, little girl, what are you up to? And why were you so hell bent on making her pay? Because my thing is, and this is a lot of what happens, especially in our culture, and not just our culture, but a lot of them. I can only speak for our culture. We don't talk, we don't communicate effectively. Like, if there's something that you want to know, and if you have all of these questions, at least try to reach out. Since you say you're watching her, at least try to reach out and, have a conversation and say, like, what happened? Why did you give me away? Or, you know what I'm saying? But she immediately just jumped on without even thinking. Just jumped on the bandwagon with Eric Hall and what he said. Lady Sweetness says, I was wondering what she was going to do. Yes, I was wondering. I said, okay, she keep emphasizing that when she make her move. Then we go into the next chapter. This is starting with Jessa being in her office. This is where Charlie ends up walking into the office and started telling her how pretty she was, how pretty her ring was, and told her congratulations on the engagement. And that's when Jessa finally really realized that and noticed Charlie. She saw that she was, very well dressed, really pretty. Makeup was perfect. She was very stylish. And then I wanted to know, like, did you catch Jessa when she said to herself that Charlie was a little mini me? Now, when Jessa said that, I was like, this is where I was thinking this was Georgia. At first, I was thinking Georgia was Charlie. And that's what threw me off. And that's why I say, okay, the author was slick right here. She was giving us, little bits and pieces and throwing in little clues that had us thinking that, okay, Charlie is actually Georgia. That's what I was thinking. And this is where I thought Jessa would recognize her. And I was like, okay, she actually stopped for a minute and was paying her some attention. I was like, okay, this is actually Georgia. And I think, Jessa is actually going to start recognizing her, but she didn't. So I was thrown off with that. Charlie wanted to conversate about the engagement, but you remember Jessa kept cutting her off and told her that that wasn't why she was in the office. Charlie was instantly irritated. Remember, Charlie was irritated because Jessa kept cutting her off. Yes, Rosemary. Rosemary said, I also thought Charlie was Georgia. Yeah, she took us for a loop right there. So Charlie ended up getting irritated because Jessa kept cutting her off. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Charlie is being like kind of pushy. So this has to be her. And Jessa got back to business and told her she was meeting with everybody to make sure that all of their cases for the year were closed. And if they had any feedback about how they could improve the business. And Charlie mentioned that she thought all of the agents should spend more time with Jessa, basically, because she seemed to have a way with men, per se. And Jessa didn't think that that was a good idea. And Charlie kind of threw in that they had a lot in common. So this is again, I highlighted this again, made me think that Charlie was Georgia. And after reviewing Charlie's cases, Jessa gave her her bonus and said that she hoped that she planned on being with the company next year. But this is when, remember, Charlie told her that she only planned on being there for short term, but she would let her know if she planned on coming back. Again, this is where I thought, again, that Arthur was letting us know that Charlie was Georgia, because I felt like after she came and did whatever she did, she didn't plan on being there. So I was stuck, and I was like, oh, okay, Charlie is Georgia. So she had me again. So after Jessa ended her meeting with Charlie, it was time for her to meet with Lacey. And as Lacey was coming in, the secretary calls her to say that she had a call. Girl, did y'all expect that phone call was going to be Aria? I was like, Aria, why are you calling Jessa? Did y'all wonder why Aria was calling? I was like, okay, well, what's really going on in Richmond Hill? And you remember, even Jessa was shocked to hear that Aria was calling. She was like, first it was Renee, now it's Aria. She said, what's next? Lunch with Jamie? So anyway, she ended up not taking the call. She made a note to call Aria back, but she wondered what she wanted, right? She was like, well, what in the world could Aria want? So she ended up proceeding with her meeting with Lacey, and now we're getting into Christmas time. She ended her meeting with Lacey. She ended up going home from work, and Hammer was there, and they had decided to decorate the Christmas tree. Jessa asked her mama if she was drunk because she was back suspecting that her mama was back drinking again because she heard a slur in her voice. But of course, Darla denied it. Jessa finds out at this point that Hammer had made eggnog and he had spiked it with some brandy, y'all. He done got Darla lit. He didn't know. And again, I blame Jessa because, y'all were sneaking around. Of course, y'all didn't talk about y'all personal business while y'all was sneaking around. But as soon as y'all made this engagement official, you should have started laying down the law. Y'all communicating with each other about do's and don'ts and telling about the past and all of this kind of stuff. So he didn't know that Darla shouldn't be drinking. So in his defense, it's eggnog. Who don't spike the eggnog during Christmas? Lady Sweetness says, Arya got on my nerves, but I understand she was concerned about the financials. But Lady Sweetness, at this point, she didn't even know about the financial situation. She thought he was cheating. Right. She should have let him know. And Darla says she wasn't drunk. Yeah, so Hammer found out that he put the brandy, told her that he put brandy in there, and that's when she gave him the rundown of what not to do. And don't send, and remember he had sent the babysitter home too, because he was like, okay, we're gonna have some family time. The babysitter can go on and enjoy her family, but she was like, please don't ever send the babysitter home, and don't give my mama nothing to drink. But Darla kept saying that she wasn't drunk, but she was naked as a jaybird. You remember? You remember when Hammer went and turned the lights on the Christmas tree to do the whole reveal, and Darla ended up spinning around, and they say she was naked as a jaybird, and Hammer had to close his eyes. Yes, Lady Sweetness, she was lit up just like that Christmas tree, talking about she wasn't drunk. Oh, girl, I was tickled. Him and Jessa ended up going upstairs after all of that to have a little heated escapade, And girl, why when Hammer rolled over and saw Darla standing there in the door just watching, girl, I cried. Do you hear me? I said, Darla, why are you at this door? And how long has she been there? So she had to run out to go see how long Darla had been standing there, because Darla had went back to the room trying to act like she was asleep. I was like, get your tail up, because you are not asleep. Oh, girl, I was so tickled. Trying to go in the room and start snoring and everything. Trying to act like she was asleep, and she was just sitting there, just eyeballing them while they was going at it. I was like, okay, Darla, what are you up to for real? What are you up to for real? So then we go on into the next chapter where Jessa was dreaming again, that she was, remember, she had that nightmare. She had started having those nightmares that she was on the lake with Georgia and Delaney, and both of the girls had fallen over in the water, and she was trying to save them. She was praying that the Lord would save her girls, and she was, hearing the girls crying, mama, mama, help me, or whatever. And then she woke up and she was crying. She was startled and she was crying. And she said she knew what the dream symbolized, and she started to panic because she just knew she couldn't have it all. And that's when she goes back into thinking about Georgia's life and wondering what it was like. She was wondering, was she still alive? If she knew that she was adopted, does she wonder about her life? She was just wondering. And that's when Hammer had woke up as she was walking back, excuse me, into the room, asking if she was ready to talk, because, she had been having these nightmares. And I'm like, girl, tell the man, that you're having nightmares and what these nightmares are about, because clearly he hear you tossing and turning and mumbling in your sleep, and then you having these nightmares and you jumping up and all of this kind of stuff. And she wondered if she should finally just tell him about Georgia. He knew that she was hiding something from him. And I was like, girl, just tell him. So do you all think that she should have opened up to him? I feel like she should have been open up to him, because you're getting ready to get married. You having these outbursts and all of this kind of stuff. He's a whole private investigator. And I was so surprised that he hadn't even just really investigated and found this out, before. That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, girl, he's a whole private investigator. If he wanted to know, he really could dig up the past. Um, so Hammer kept pressuring her to tell him what was going on. And she kept trying to change the subject by questioning him about, she was like, well, you questioning me about my past, but I don't know any of your family or friends. She knew he had a son that was in Paris, and she wanted to know, his secrets as well. And he told her that he could have just researched her background, but he didn't, because he was really trying to give her the opportunity to, open up and share with him, herself. He said he wanted her to tell him because he wanted to be able to trust her. Like, I'm gonna let you tell me when you want to tell me, right, Lady Sweetness? I thought he already knew. Jessa finally started, opening up, and she blurted out her secrets. She finally told him that Delaney wasn't her only child, and she told him about the secret of how Georgia was conceived. She said that her father ended up slitting his throat when he woke up from his drunken stupor and realized that he had violated his own daughter. I'm sitting now, listen, and then at this point, I was sitting there like, listen, Mr. Man, Jessa's daddy. I get, I've never been a drunk. I don't know what it feels like to be inebriated to the point to where I don't know where I am, where I'm going. And I purposely make sure. Now, I'll indulge in me a good old margarita and a glass of wine or what have you. But I have never been one that just overexert myself when it comes to drinking and alcohol, because I need to be aware of my surroundings. And I've always been like that. But I do not know anything about how it feels for a person to be so drunk that they're completely out of it, to the point to where you don't know you in the bed with your daughter. I just find that hard to believe. And again, I've never been there, so I'm not trying to downplay that to anybody who's experienced it. But for me, how in the world, as a father, you don't know that this is your child? Like, at some point, you had to have heard her cries and daddy stop. And I really didn't get that. Like, I was like, now, Mr. Man. Miss Lady says I was surprised he hadn't looked her up since they were going to get. Exactly. I was so surprised. So anyway, she ended up telling her, yeah, right, Lady Sweetness, I believe he knew too. And that's the reason why he slit his throat, because you immediately slit your throat when you knew you realized what you had done. Because to me, like, did you always have eyes for her? Were you always looking at? That's sick. Did you always have eyes for her, and you just use? Because sometimes people will use the fact that they were drunk to say what they want to say, or to do things they want to do to excuse their behavior. So I was side-eyeing him, and I feel like he took the coward way out. Because how you gonna do something like that? Impregnate your daughter, and then you're gonna slit your throat so you don't have to deal with the scrutiny that comes along with it. But yet this girl got to live with this for the rest of her life. Then not only did you sleep with, you impregnated her. Like, come on. Rosemary says, I think he knew it was his daughter. He just resented it after the fact. That's exactly what it was, because he knew what was gonna come with it. He was a coward. Hammer ended up telling her that he could help her find Georgia. But Jessa said no, because she didn't want her to, know about her father and how she was conceived. He kept trying to get her to move info out of her. He tried to keep getting more information out of her. He told her that he just wanted to check in on her to see if she was okay. She didn't want to further cause Georgia harm. So I feel like, at this point, I'm like, okay, girl, if he wants you keep having these dreams. If he just want to pull up information just so that he could, help you find out what's really going on with her, let him find out. Like, you don't have to like invade her space, but to just know, like, how is she doing? How is she living? Or what have you. And after that, Hammer ended up falling asleep, and Jessa started having again another one of her nightmares about the girls. Then Jessa ended up meeting Keegan for dinner. While at dinner, that's when she got a call from the office to tell Jessa that Aria had called again, and that Aria was threatening to kick her tail if she didn't return the call. And I was sitting there like, okay, Aria, what is it that you need that you're calling? And for the life of me, now I get, Jessa caused all of this stuff, right? She caused all this chaos in the lives of her friends. And now they say they didn't want anything to do with it, but yet again, you calling this same person that caused all of this chaos in your life, now you calling her for help. That didn't look right. That did not look right. Lady Sweetness says she should have, just like she stalked Aria, right? And I was sitting there like, okay, Jessa, now Arya is calling. And so Jessa calls Arya back. They had a few words before getting to what the call was actually about. They had to do their little back and forth banter. And Arya said she was calling in a favor, since Jessa had tried to ruin her marriage before. Arya wanted Jessa to tell her everything that she knew about Kingston. And Jessa was surprised that Arya wanted her to actually do that, but she agreed to do it for her. And so my question to you all, were you surprised that Arya reached out to Jessa about Kingston? Because I'm sitting there like, okay, wasn't Kingston the one that was squeaky clean the last time? Girl, let it go. Jessa went back to the table with Keegan after she took Arya's call, and she finally told Keegan why she had invited her to dinner. She wanted her to plan her wedding. So she basically invited Keegan to dinner to tell her that she wanted her to plan her wedding, and Keegan was shocked about it. But before she could actually answer, the elevator stranger had sent over a bottle of wine. Remember, this is the night that when Jessa and Keegan was going to dinner, the elevator guy and some of his business friends were at the same restaurant, and he kept eyeing Jessa while they were there. And he ended up sending over a bottle of wine. Did you have suspicions about this elevator stranger? Because I call him the elevator stranger. Were y'all suspicious about him? I was just wondering. It's something about him. But you remember, it just kept like they would have their little passing bys in the elevator, but for him to be at dinner, and I was like, okay, there's some kind of tie that the Arthur is trying to give us about the elevator guy and Jessa. I was suspicious. I was like, okay, what role is he gonna play? Anyway, Jessa never told Keegan about the elevator guy. She never mentioned. Keegan agreed to plan the wedding. Hammer ended up calling, and Jessa told him to give her some information about Arya's husband. Apparently, and this is where we find out that apparently Kingston had tanked a lot of money into this new medical facility that he was trying to build, and it wasn't panning out. So their money was low. Lady Sweetness said, I knew they were going to have their time. Absolutely. They had a time too. Right up in that office. Before they got off the phone, Hammer told her that his mom was coming to visit for Christmas. And, Jessa didn't like that at all, because remember, Jessa hadn't met his mom. So Hammer was telling her that his mom was coming. Jessa ended up calling Arya back so that she could tell her the information that the Hammer had given her. And surprisingly, I was shocked that she didn't tell her about the financial trouble. She basically told her, Arya, look, you got a good man, and don't let your suspicions of him push him away. And Jessa said that would be the last time that she actually contacted the ladies in Richmond Hills. She was done. So I did appreciate the fact that she didn't go into details about the financial troubles, because we figure eventually Arya would find that out anyway. But he wasn't cheating. He was just having some issues financially. Excuse me. But that's where, as the wife, you go to him and are we okay? Why you gotta even hire a private investigator for that? You go have a conversation with your husband about the finances and stuff. So I was glad that she, didn't go into details, and she just told him that he was a good man. Arya did call her back. Remember, she was glad that Arya didn't answer the phone, so she was able to just leave the message. So Arya was calling her back. Arya was pissed, and Arya left her a message because she thought that Jessa was crazy for trying to give her advice on her marriage. Jessa said, well, you called me for help. Did you or did you not forget? And I was like, okay, now she did have a point, because Arya, you called and put her in your business, but because it wasn't what you wanted to hear, you mad. I was like, how you mad? So anyway, we move on. We go into, this is 3 months down the line. This is where Jessa and Hammer is getting married. She started reminiscing about her first time meeting Hammer's mom, and she said that Hammer's mom didn't like her. Remember, Hammer invited her over to the house. His mom was cooking, and his mom just instantly did not like Jessa. Like, they talked about the food. So Jessa started going tit for tat with the mama. And she was like, well, my grandma didn't used to season her food like this. And it needs some salt, or it needs some more seasoning. And Hammer's mama was taken aback because she was like, okay, I've seen this kind. I've run into women who don't like me all the time. But, Hammer was trying to get them, acclimated with each other. But the mama was coming a little hard. I get that's your son, but this is the lady that he say he's marrying, this, that, and the third. But the mama was going hard, so the old Jessa popped out like, okay, I'm about to give her a run for her money then. So you want to play? Let's play. So that's when we realized that Hammer's mom didn't like Jessa. At the wedding, she told Jessa that her time was coming. And, Jessa started second guessing. Rosemary says her mom was yes, his mom was definitely out of order. So his mom told her that, you just wait, your time is coming. So Jessa started to kind of like second guess everything. And she started having a panic attack and wanted to talk to Pastor Dale. You remember Pastor Dale officiated. Yes, I got what you said, sis. Correction. Hammer's mom was out of order. Yep. So she wanted to talk to Pastor Dale because she was having a panic attack. And, Pastor Dale came in. So she ended up calling Keegan like, hey, get Pastor Dale up here, what have you. Pastor Dale came in to talk to her to calm her down. And they went through with the whole wedding, and then left for the honeymoon. They ended up going to Antigua for their honeymoon, and they enjoyed their honeymoon. They turned off their phones and said we were spending a long time. Jessa only called in to check on Delaney to see how she was doing. Jessa went to check on her mom and Darla, her mom. And Darla told her she was feeling uncomfortable now that, they got back from the got back from the honeymoon. And, when Jessa came home, she went in to check on her mom. And then that's when you remember Darla was telling her that she was starting to feel uncomfortable now that Hammer had actually moved in and she wanted to go back to Harlem. Do you think that Jessa should have allowed her mom to get her own place? Now, I often did. I get that. You remember Jessa said that she had become the power of attorney over her mom, which is why, yes, mama was creeping good around the corner. She was creeping to Mr. Man around there. That's what she was getting lit at. Sneaking around the corner to have a drink. But I think that Jessa should have at least allowed her mom to have her own place. I understood where the mama was coming from because she basically was telling her, you got married and now Hammer is living here in the house. And one thing I know about a man, they like to be the king of their own castle. She said, men like to be able to comfortably walk around their homes, with the shirts off and all of this kind of stuff. And, he can't do that with me in the house and all of that kind of stuff. And Jessa just didn't understand where she was coming from. But I felt where she was coming from, like that, y'all need your own space. Even if it was a little house around the corner, she could have still, you could have had, security to make sure mom was okay. But you still should have got her, whether you allow her to go back to Harlem or not. You still should have, allow her to have her own space. And that's what she needed. But I felt like, Jessa wanted to keep her close so she could monitor her taking pills or drinking or what have you, but she was still doing it, so she may as well. Look, Darla said, where there is a will, there is a way, baby. And she was getting it. Jessa's phone ended up ringing, and it was Amanda, the agent she had on the Montgomery case, was telling her that Mrs. Montgomery had actually offered to pay her $25,000 to sleep with her husband. Now, at this point, I'm side-eyeing Bella Montgomery because, you tried to have your husband investigated, and they was telling you that this man wasn't cheating, but she was adamant about trying to get him caught up cheating. So she offered to pay Amanda $25,000 to sleep with her and for her to record it. Lady Sweetness says she was worried about her mom going back to, yeah, she was. And that's why I feel like, You should have got her, you had the money to get her some type of in-home therapy or something, you know what I'm saying, to kind of make sure she was staying on the straight and narrow without, feeling like you had to keep her under lock and key. So I can understand she in the house, no hobbies, no nothing, just living in the house with you monitoring whether or not she was drinking or taking pills. What is she supposed to do all day? So I felt, I could understand where Darla was coming from. Jessa was trying to figure out what was going on, and what Bella Montgomery was actually up to. She told Amanda to abort the mission and to go home, to not try to catch, Mr. Montgomery. At this point, she didn't understand where Bella was coming from, because she insisted that her husband was cheating, even after they told her they didn't find anything, and he wouldn't, take the bait. But Jessa just didn't know what she was up to, so that kind of was piquing her interest. And Jessa figured, since New York wasn't a community property state, that she was trying to set her husband up to have control over the money in the marriage. So that's what she was getting at. She tried calling Hammer. Okay, so now we get into her trying to call Hammer several times, but he never answered the calls. Because remember, she was going back watching those videos, trying to figure out what Bella Montgomery was up to, and she ended up finding something, and she was trying to call Hammer to let him know what was going on. But you remember, this is where she started hearing those moaning sounds coming from the phone. I was like, okay, what's really going on? Bella was trying to break that prenup. That's exactly what she was doing. That's exactly what she was doing. So Jessa was hit with the gut punch. Remember, Hammer was at his apartment, and he was cheating. Did y'all wonder who he was cheating with? Did y'all wonder who he was cheating with? I was like, oh man. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, y'all had just gotten married. Just gotten married. So anyway, after she heard the sounds on the phone, she ended up telling her mama to watch Delaney. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me close my door. Okay, honey. I had to close my door. Hubby came home from bowling. Anyway, so she told her mama to watch Delaney for a second until she got back. So her mama instantly knew that something was wrong. Because for one, she never asked Darla to watch Delaney. And so basically Darla told Jessa, like, don't you ever let a man have you out here in these streets acting a fool. But like we do, when we all emotional, y'all know how we is. Jessa wanted to go see what was going on. I was hoping he wasn't either, Lady Sweetness. I was like, come on, Hammer. I was really like, I was rooting for them. Jessa ended up making it to his apartment, and sure enough, he was cheating. He was mid-stroke, child. When she walked through the door, he jumped up trying to contain her. And I immediately thought that it was Georgia. Did y'all think at this point that it was Georgia? Did y'all think that it was Georgia? Because I did. I really thought that it was Georgia. Let me see. Did y'all think it was Georgia? Lady Sweetness says she thought it was Charlie. Well, I thought it was Charlie. However, I thought it was Georgia. Remember, we knew Georgia was impersonating either Charlie or Lacey. We didn't know which one, but I definitely. Rosemary said I thought it was her business partner, Keegan. Oh my gosh, I never thought, but that could have possibly been Keegan too. Because remember, Keegan was acting funny. I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, but again, I immediately thought that it was Georgia. Jessa was asking him who the person was and who he was trying to block. Because remember, he was trying to block her from not seeing who the person was. And Jessa turned to walk away, and all of a sudden, that's when the chick said, "Bye, boss." I was like, "Oh, child. Oh, not only are you sleeping with her husband, you got some balls." That's when I knew. I said, "Okay, she on some good." Listen, and you remember, like Lady Sweetness just said, she thought it was Charlie. Jessa thought it was Charlie too, because she remember when she heard the voice, she said, "Oh, it was Charlie." She said, "So it was a double betrayal, my husband and one of my agents." But so she thought it was Georgia. This is how Georgia decided to get her revenge. Hammer was a typical weak man, in my opinion. He was used in Georgia's pawn. This is why I was like, Hammer, man, you were that weak. I mean, y'all were just a month in to the marriage, and you were that weak. And I still wondered, because we never got to. I still wondered, like, how did she get him that easily? Like, what did she do? What did she say? And again, she can do and say what she want to do, say and do, but it was up to him, because he was the one that was married. He knew that he had just gotten married, and for you to be that easy and that gullible, my God, I was like, my God, today, Negro, Jesus, these are some weak men. Did you feel sorry? Did y'all feel sorry for Jessa at this point? Did y'all feel sorry? I did. Jessa gave herself. So anyway, this is what, and then this is what I was telling. This is what I was saying when I was reading this part. This is what karma looks like. Karma has no expiration date. Lady Sweetie said, "Nah, I feel sorry for that help." And this is why though, because karma has no expiration date. You can think that just because I decide, like, we can do all of this dirt, it can be years ago. And we can think, oh, I'm in the church now. I'm getting my life right. I'm doing right by people. I ask for forgiveness. And just when you think things are going good and you think your life is good, don't forget the Lord ain't forgot that you about to reap what you sowed. And it's usually always when you think things are going good, always when you think you got your life on track, always when you think I'm not the same person that I used to be. But baby, you're gonna have to pay for those skeletons. You're gonna have to pay for what you did to who you did it to, and you're gonna get it. And if it's either coming through you or it's coming through your children, but you're gonna get it back. And she got it back in the worst way. I was like, oh my gosh, you just finally opened yourself up to being in a relationship. You get married to this man, and you had your daughter betrayed your husband to you. You're like, how do you bounce back from that? I say, well, all I can do is shake my head. This is what karma looks like, because it has no expiration date, and she had to feel it. All of the hurt and pain and chaos that she caused in the lives of other people, baby, you're gonna have to feel yours. You're gonna have to get it. She had to get that get back. Lady Sweetness says, I'm sorry, that's what she get for all of the messages did, because of being exactly. She got her get back. She got her get back. So then she went into, this whole state of depression. But she said she gave herself one day to wallow in her pity, and she told her nanny that she was going back to the office. And keep in mind, she had only been married. No, she told her nanny that she was going back to her last name. She no longer wanted to be called Young as her married name. So she had only been married 1 month at this point. She had the cleaning lady come in and clean out all the Hammer stuff. Like, girl came the next day. She went to work as normal, the same routine with the same elevator stranger. Remember, but this time, this is the time that she had him invite her to his office. I was like, I knew it was going to be something. So she ended up sleeping with the elevator stranger. And when they were done, she asked if he was married. And I was sitting there like, wait, why did you wait until after that y'all were done before you asked if he was married? And he told her yes, he was honest. And that heifer was like, once a mistress, always a mistress. And it was then that I realized that Jezebel has gone back to the old Jezebel ways. Yes, Lady Sweetness, she was ready. Jessa had to go see the pastor, right? So after she had the little rendezvous with the elevator stranger, she went and see the pastor so she could confess. She told him that she had cheated on her husband after she found out that he had cheated on her. And Jessa was going back and forth with one of the church sisters. Remember, one of the little church sisters had came and she was kind of side-eyeing, like, okay, what y'all doing meeting in the office? Because y'all usually be meeting out in the sanctuary. And, Jessica was mad. This is at the point to where now she's mad at how things in her life has started to take a turn for the worse. Now you mad with the Lord. You know how we can be sometimes. Sometimes we start questioning the Lord. Now, Lord, I did all of this, and now you punishing me. Now you making me have to go through this, that, and the third. So now she mad at the Lord. She said she was done with everything, that she had done everything right. She still was having bad luck. She was upset, so she stormed out and she told the pastor that she wasn't never come to church no more. That's how we do. We turn our back on the Lord. We mad because the stuff didn't go the way we thought that it should have gone. But what she didn't understand was that, Jessa, you had to go through this because you had to get this. There was no way. It ain't nowhere around getting that karma that you deserve. You getting it. It's nowhere around it. And she didn't understand that. She thought that just because she was on the up and narrow these days, that she didn't have to pay for what she had done. Anyway, she ended up going home, only to pull up and see Hammer was parked in the driveway. Girl, I said, okay, now Hammer. And I get you trying to fight for your marriage and all this kind of stuff. She didn't want to talk to him. He told her that he was sorry over and over again and that Georgia had set him up. Georgia told him there was no way they could ever bounce back from him sleeping with her daughter. And I was sitting there like, well, how do you, I don't care if she set you up, if it was a trap, if she put something in his drink to kind of get him out of mind or what have you and slept with him or what have you. The point being is, how do you expect one to bounce back from me walking into your apartment and you sleeping with my daughter? There is no coming back for that. So I was sitting there like, okay, Hammer, you may as well just give it up. It's a wrap. Yeah, she snapped. Miss Lady says, always a mistress. That's why it was hard for me to feel sorry for her. I get it. I didn't feel sorry for her for the things that she had done, but I did kind of feel sorry for her. It was just like, I guess the human side of me, I'm like, dang, that's a bad way to go out. But again, this is Jessa. Right, Lady Sweetness, you cannot bounce back. It's over. It's done. Like, I ain't no use in you just keep coming. So anyway, Hammer got upset when Jessa told him that she cheated. So she basically told him, so you cheated on me, so I got my lick back. And you remember that's when he got irate and grabbed her by the neck in a fit of anger because he was mad. And I was sitting there like, typical Negro behavior. You cannot take what you dish out. So why are you mad? You sitting here, no matter what she would have done to try to get her get back at this point, nothing should have caused him to even be mad. Boy, you slept with her daughter. I don't care how you say it happened, but you slept with her daughter. And you got the audacity to be mad. At least she told you that she slept with somebody else. And although she was doing it because she was trying to get back at him and she was trying to make him feel what she felt. But that food was crazy. It was here. This is when I realized, I said, okay, Hammer is about to be a problem. He's about to be a problem. He is not about to let go. Rosemary says, I was surprised that Jessa felt it necessary to involve the elevator man. Now that pissed me off too, Rosemary. Excuse me. So after Hammer ended up, trying to choke her out, he ended up stopping because he remembered, like, oh, I remembered, this is what happened with her and Eric. So I didn't want to take her back to that dark space. So he released her and let her go, just said that he was mad. He didn't try to do it. Then we move into Jessa deciding to go back to the office. She was trying to figure out why she was going. And as soon as she walked in, that's when she fired Felicia. Remember, as soon as she walked in the door, she told Felicia she was fired. Hammer was sending her a bunch of text messages demanding to know who Jessa's lover was. Remember, that was stuck in his head. Jessa was snapping on Keegan because she was trying to be the boss. Remember, Keegan was trying to run stuff. And Jessa tells Keegan about Lacey sleeping with Hammer, and that she was fired. Remember, she also was trying to fire Keegan as well. And Hammer was still freaking out about Jessa sleeping with another man. Jessa and Keegan had some words. Again, she told Keegan she was fired, and Keegan went into like, you can't fire me and all this. I helped you build this company. And they started having words. Jessa then grabs the file and start calling Georgia. She didn't answer, so she ended up leaving a message. She told Georgia when she got this message to give her a call. Jessa shut down Mistress Inc. for a couple of weeks. She changed the locks to the office. She got the office in order, and she called the office staff to let everybody know that the office would be closed. Darla starts back battling with her bipolar disorder. This is where we found out that she was taking a walk and the voices started coming back to her head. And we see that she was back seemingly struggling, um, and what happened to struggling about what happened to Jessa. Darla takes a walk and she starts telling us about the one neighbor that she had stumbled into. Remember, his name was Mr. Frankie. Um, Across the street around the way, and that's where she had been sneaking to get her drinks. I knew it. Did you suspect that Darla was back drinking? Did it ever cross your mind that she was back drinking? I knew something was up when Winifred first mentioned Darla being out for walks. I'm like, okay, they have for going somewhere. She's sneaking off. But child, she was sneaking around there to Frankie. Nope, she wasn't taking her medicine. And she was sneaking around she wasn't taking that medicine so she could drink, because remember Jessa told her you cannot be taking this medicine and drinking and mixing this alcohol. So Darla said, well, I just won't take the medicine then so I can drink. I knew eventually that Darla would get bored just sitting in the house all day. So to me, I feel like Jessa should have had something in place to at least keep her entertained or something. Just sitting in the house all day while everybody else in and out living their lives. Then we get back into Jessa. She was sitting outside in her car listening to the radio. Remember, she checked her phone. Hammer still blowing up the phone, child, just calling, but she kept ignoring him. She was hoping that, Georgia would actually reach out, because remember, she had left Georgia the message, and her attorney had told her, remember, she had called the attorney trying to file the divorce, and the attorney told her that she couldn't file for divorce for 6 months. So basically her separation was going to last longer than the divorce. And I found that weird, because couldn't she just have annulled the marriage? Like, why would she have to wait 6 months? Because I've known people to get married and they just annulled it right away. So I'm not sure why she couldn't just get it annulled. But the lawyer was telling her that she had to wait 6 months. Lady Sweetness says, looking out her window and found a victim. That's exactly what she is, what she found. But yeah, I was wondering why she didn't just get the marriage annulled. So she basically was thinking about how marriage was easy to get into, but hard to get out of. I was like, child, you better know it. Her phone started ringing again, and it was Winifred calling her from the inside of the house. And as she was on the phone with Winifred, remember, she heard a lot of commotion going on in the background, and she heard, Delaney had started to crying. Come to find out, girl, Darla was in there, her drunk behind done grabbed her and fell with her. Remember, Winifred said that Darla had tripped over something and fell with Delaney in her arms. So in Darla's drunken state, she told Jessa that she had one granddaughter that she wouldn't let her see and had another one that she had never met. So again, the same way Jessa was having these thoughts coming to her, Darla was also having like similar thoughts coming to her about the whole situation. And Jessa sent Winifred out to the car with Delaney so she could have a talk with Darla. And that's when Darla started apologizing to her. And Jessa asked Darla why she chose to, start back drinking, just like she said, just like you chose to leave me standing in that window when I was little. She told her that, you abandoned me, my dad raped me, and my grandmother snatched my baby out of my arms. And then here my husband crushed me, basically. Right, Lady Sweetness? She was lit, girl. So at this point, y'all, I get that we don't like Jessa, but I did feel her pain here. To me, I removed the whole scandalous Jezebel that we knew. I realized that this was a child crying for help. She was basically like reliving everything that had happened to her as a child. Remembering herself standing in this window and her mom never coming back. Remembering that, her father stole her innocence. He raped her and got her pregnant. And remembering that her grandmother had snatched her baby out of her arms. A baby that she had never met or seen or gotten to know. And then as of recent, her husband crushing her by sleeping with said daughter. So I could feel her pain right there. And this is where Darla starts to cry. And Jessa asks her if she ever cried like that when all of those bad things was happening to her. And so that's what I started feeling for her. And then I wondered why Darla and Jessa never went to counseling. Did y'all ever wonder that? Because I'm sitting there like, you holding on to all of this animosity about how you really feel for your mom, and she's only there because you're now her power of attorney. Um, but then the mom is battling with some of those same things of letting that happen to her. I'm like, why was counseling never introduced between the two? Like, y'all could have really set, and and again, it goes back to us, how we just never like try to seek the necessary help. We just keep bottling this stuff up on the inside, and then every little thing will cause us to snap out, and then we regurgitate all of this stuff that we're holding in, when like, just lay it all on the table and have a conversation about it. Darla was still emotional. She told Jessa she did the best that she could, and Jessa basically told her that her best wasn't good enough. Jessa then took Delaney and she left for the night. Remember, she told Winifred that she and Delaney was going to get a hotel room. And Jessa, that's when Darla Crazy Tail fell asleep at the doorstep, right where Jessa left her, at the top of the stairs. I was like, see, that heifer was lit. Talk about she had been drinking, passed clean out. And you remember, while she was passed out at the top of the stairs, that's where the doorbell rang and woke her up. Darla got up to see who was at the door. She made her way to the door, and of course, it was Georgia. Were y'all surprised that Georgia had showed up on the doorstep, girl? And the voices was talking to Darla again, telling her not to trust her and not to open the door, because she was like, it could be somebody here to unalive you. So remember, that's when she went and grabbed that broken liquor bottle, and she cut herself. Remember, she cut herself when she grabbed that liquor bottle. And Darla finally opened the door, and I cackled because that door, Georgia showed up wearing them darn shoes. You remember the red flats that she had stole out of the red flats that she had stole out of Jessa's closet on that wedding that night. And remember, Jessa was looking for them darn shoes and she couldn't find that heifer showed up on the doorstep with the shoes on. I was like, girl. Lady Sweetney said, I tried to feel sorry for her, but her actions overruled how I felt toward her. I was still upset with Jessa from the other books. Right. The voices was something. I was still upset with her too. But I'll say it this way. I didn't feel sorry for the Jessa we knew today. I felt sorry for the Jessa that was the kid in her that had to endure all of this stuff. Right. So that part. Jessa, she stayed in the red shoes. So Georgia noticed that Darla was bleeding, but she asked if Jezebel was home. Darla told her to go home, and Georgia asked her if she wanted to talk to her granddaughter. And that's when Darla started to contemplating if she should let Georgia in or not. She was listening, to the voices in her head again, and she was trying to reason with herself. And Darla basically ended up blurting out, it's not Jessa's fault that bastard raped my baby. So she blurted it out before she knew it. But again, it was the voices in her head, and she was drunk and all of that kind of stuff. And that's when Georgia yelled out, like, what? Now she was confused. Darla was basically making Georgia leave after she blurted all of that out, because the voices were telling her that she was there to hurt Jessa. So in her mind, she was trying to protect Jessa. And I always wondered why Jessa just never got her mom help. I know she saw those signs early on, and I just never understood. But I was also kind of like, okay, she blurted out the fact of what happened to Jessa not being her fault. And Georgia at this point had become confused. I couldn't blame Jessa for I couldn't blame Darla for blurting it out, because again, the lady was sick. She was drunk for one, and she had the voices in her head. She was talking, out of her head. So anyway, it goes into then after Georgia ended up leaving she started talking about how she felt horrible hearing what Darla had said about her granddad actually being her father. She started to regret all of the stuff that she had did to try to get revenge on Jessa, especially sleeping with Hammer. She said that she enjoyed seeing Jessa suffer, but now she felt really, really, really bad. And so my question is, am I the only one that yelled out, see, that's why you should have had a conversation? So I highlighted that in there. Why didn't you just have a conversation? Like, you immediately just believe the first thing a person told you about Jessa, and you jumped right on the bandwagon wanting to get revenge, and you didn't even know the whole story. The same way that you was researching her and finding out about her business, that she had another kid and all of this stuff, you could have reached out to try, just at least have a conversation. And then after that conversation, make up your mind whether or not you want to have a relationship with her. Although I don't feel like if she had reached out to Jessa still, I don't think would have told her how she was conceived, because, Jessa didn't want her to be tainted by that. She thought back to, telling Jessa that she had stopped being her daughter the moment that she had gave her away, and Jessa told her that she never gave her away, but Georgia didn't want to believe it, remember? So she started like, dang, was it really true? So that's when Georgia started to wonder if Eric Sr. had actually used her as a pawn to get back at Jessa. And she couldn't stop thinking about how foolish she was to let him use her as a pawn, because she wanted revenge on Jessa. So she wasn't seeing clearly. And she basically was saying, all I could think about was the revenge that I wanted to get on her. So basically, any piece of bad information somebody told her about Jessa, she was going to believe anyway. So Jessa was so distraught. Georgia was so distraught that she, took some pills. Remember, she ordered that Chinese food, and in the Chinese food was the pills and stuff. So the Chinese food was a disguise for her to get those was it oxycodone, I think, that she was taking. And remember, she took the pills and she ended up passing out. So then we went back into Jessa and Delaney spending the night at the hotel. So at this point, she was getting ready to come home. And of course, Hammer, listen, I was so sick of Hammer. I don't know about y'all, but I was like, okay, Negro. Of course, I get you trying I get you was trying to make amends and all of this kind of stuff. But I think he was more so just, he was consumed with the fact that Jessa had slept with somebody. He was consumed with trying to find out who it was, more so trying to work on his relationship. But this time she ended up answering the phone because she wanted to ask him if he would agree to signing off on the divorce in the Dominican Republic. Remember, she had to go to the DR, and she could get like an emergency power of attorney to get the divorce pushed up. And of course, he said no, because he wanted to fight for his marriage, because Georgia set him up. And, Jessa basically kept telling him, like, you know what, don't be using that as an excuse, to say that she set you up. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Jessa, you never really looked in the files. You remember, at this point, she still hadn't even looked in Georgia's files that Hammer had given her. Do you think that they could have actually repaired their marriage? Do you think Jessa should have heard him out about Georgia? Yes, they all needed help. Yes, Lady Sweetness, his feelings was hurt. Men can't take it. He couldn't take it at all. Feelings were hurt because she got her get back. Now she did. She was on some get back stuff, but again, like she had told Elevator Man, she was like, "I'm only doing this because I found out my husband cheated on me," and she basically told Hammer, like, even though I slept with this man, I never would have slept with him had you not cheated on me. So that was her get back. So Jessa ended up making it back home, only to find out that her mama was passed out on the floor with blood everywhere. Remember, this is where she had cut her hand on the liquor bottle. And so she was trying to figure out what happened. So that's again where her phone rang, and it was actually Georgia calling. And Jessa let it go to voicemail because she said she didn't want Georgia to find out the truth about, her conception. And this is again where I highlighted, see, these secrets are what keep setting these families back. And this happens all the time. Like, we keep these secrets buried. Like, have the conversation. Like, I get you don't want her to know, but at the same time, I want you to know. Like, there's a way that you can relay a message without it coming off as harsh and cruel or whatever the case may be. But have the conversation, and you keep sweeping it under the rug ain't gonna make it go away. She listened to the voicemail, so she sent Georgia the voicemail, and she ended up leaving a message. She immediately heard the slur in Georgia's voice. Remember, this is at the point to where Georgia had taken the pills, and she was telling her that Eric Sr. had used her, and now he was her enemy, basically, like, you're the enemy of my mom, so you're now my enemy. And remember, Jessa started tearing up because she heard Georgia actually call her mom. Georgia told her that she wished Darla never told her that she was raped. Jessa then got upset and ran in the house for Darla. She made her basically get up off the floor. You remember, she was in a drunken stupor, still stretched out on the floor, child, in the same spot she had been the day before. And so she told her to get up so she could take her to the hospital to get her some pain meds for her hand. And that's when Darla looked at her and said, I thought you said that I couldn't take any more pills. And, this is where we realized that Jessa was just trying to lure her to the hospital. Yes, a drunk gonna always tell it. That liquid courage, girl. Give them some liquid courage and they're gonna tell it all. So Jessa was trying to get Darla to the hospital to see about her hand. And at this point, I was wondering, like, oh my God, it's just about to leave this lady at the hospital. Jessa called Darla's psych doctor and told her she wanted to have Darla admitted. Jessa told Darla that she was going to let her. You remember, Jessa told her that she was going. Jessa told her that she was going to let her rot in that facility because she should have never told Georgia that she was raped, because she wasn't. I do feel bad that Darla blurted that out and didn't give Jessa the opportunity to tell her herself. But again, she was drunk and voices was talking to her. But she basically lured her to the hospital. So when Darla got there, she immediately realized, like, okay, this heifer about to leave me at this hospital and have me admitted. And she locked in the car. Remember, Darla kept trying to unlock the door and get out, and she kept pushing the door up against Jessa's shoulder. Jessa was like, no, baby, you staying here today. And she basically told her, I'm about to have you admitted and locked away, and I won't be here. I'm going to let you ride in here, basically. And I was like, well, dang, Jessa. But again, I'm quite sure there had been many times she tried to get her help. But when you're an adult, you can sign yourself out if you don't feel like you should be there. So, yes, Lady Sweetness, Jessa was back to the old Jessa. She tried for a little bit, but she succumbed to her karma, basically, thinking that, okay, since I got my life in order, everything gonna be great and perfect. No, she didn't realize that you still had to go through the process of reaping all of that stuff that you had sown. Jessa ended up getting back home and decided to clean up Darla's room. And remember, that's when she went in there and found those pills and alcohol that was hidden. Hammer showed up at the door again, child. I was like, oh my gosh, go away. So Jessa ended up calling the police. At that point, I was sick of him just as much as she was sick of him. Remember, she called the police and she still had those bruises on her neck. So she was able to tell them that, he had been assaulting her and all of that kind of stuff. The police ended up showing up and taking the photos of the bruises and had him arrested for assault and all that kind of stuff. When he looked up, remember when they, when they put him in the police car, he ended up seeing them taking those pictures of her neck, and he already knew then. Right, had him arrested. Jessa tried to, so they ended up taking him off, had him arrested. Jessa tried calling Georgia, but she didn't get an answer because she kept remembering like what Georgia was sounding like when she left the voicemail. She was back in revenge mode. Jessa basically was like, hey, I'm back in revenge mode. Jessa ended up heading to her office to get some files, and that's when she ran into Mr. Stranger again in the elevator. She ended up going in, and they did the do again in the office, and his wife ended up showing up. And I remember, and I was thinking at this point, I'm like, did that secretary call that wife and tell her Jessa was in there? Because remember when Jessa walked in, telling her that she was there to see the elevator stranger, and the secretary kind of looked at her weird. I believe that secretary called and told his wife. Because remember when they came out of the room when they was done, and the wife was standing up in there. And remember, he had just told Jessa, he was like, Jessa was like, when the last time you slept with your wife, or have you been thinking of me while you were sleeping with her? And he lied and told her, it was like, I haven't touched her since the last time I touched you. So he basically lied and was trying to make it seem like he hadn't slept with his wife. So when the wife came in and all of that stuff, and then she was kissing on him and all this kind of stuff, and she told him basically like, I want you to do me like you did me last night. So that's when Jessa turned around, because basically like, this Negro done lied to me. He told me he hadn't slept with his wife. And that's when Jessa was like, oh, so he slept with you after he slept with me, basically telling the wife that they had just got done, and told her she could go in his office and find the condom in the garbage can. Now I was like, okay, now Jessa, she didn't deserve that. You are sleeping with her husband. So the fact that you had to, and again, in her little mind, that was her get back to get at him for lying to her. But again, he didn't owe you loyalty. Y'all was just sleeping together. So he ain't got to tell you what's going on with him and his wife. And the fact that you pulled the wife in it, and you decided to want to break this tea to his wife in that manner, I think that was wrong. Because I'm like, well, y'all had something cool going on. You could have still kept sleeping with the man. You ain't had to tell him. Right, Lady Sweetness, stamina. She's like, you mean tell me you had enough stamina to go home and sleep with your wife after you had slept with me? I was like, Jessa, that wasn't called for. That was not called for. So anyway, him and her got into it. I was like, Lord, she done caused chaos in their household yet again. Uh, then Jessa went to meet Mr. Montgomery. Remember, she went to have a meet with Mr. Montgomery. She told him that she had proof that his wife was planning to leave him. And all of that kind of stuff. And he basically was like, why are you really here? I know my wife been paying you and all this, that, and the third. So he ended up, taking the information that Jessa had given him to send to his attorney. Then after that, and he was like, I know you're ready to just call my wife so that you can gloat that you got one up on her. Because again, Bella was kind of smart in the beginning. She was getting over on Jessa and them. She knew what was really going on and what she was doing behind the scenes. So Jessa caught pleasure in having to call Bella Montgomery to piss her off, because Bella was shopping. She was shopping. She was like, hey, you shopping? You at the mall? I would advise you not go to that register with that credit card, because all your credit cards been cut off. And Bella was pissed because she realized what Jessa was saying was the truth. So Bella got pissed off. So basically Jessa got her lick back with Bella. Then that's when Jessa's attorney calling her to let her know that Hammer had made bail and that she was granted her temporary restraining order. That's when he also told her that Keegan was filing a lawsuit on Jessa. Remember Keegan trying to get her part of the money out, but she basically told her, like, I've paid you back well over what you invested into the company when we first started. But I knew then, did y'all know that did y'all feel like Keegan wasn't just going to walk away? I always knew she was coming back, but I didn't know. So she's trying to file a lawsuit on her. Then Jessa ended up going to the Hall's house. Remember, she went to go see Kitty and Eric Hall. And when Kitty looked up and saw that it was Jessa at the door, Jessa told her that she wanted to speak to her about something. And that's when she brought out the infamous teddy bear. You remember the teddy bear that she had with the recording in it? That's when she ended up breaking that tea to Kitty about the teddy bear, about Eric Hall and all of that kind of stuff. Then after that, which ended up being the same day, she ended up getting another phone call, seeing again. Lady Sweetness said, poor Kitty. Yeah, poor Kitty, but Kitty was putting her mouth where she shouldn't. Like, Kitty should have stayed out of what she didn't know. And, all of that stuff she was saying to Jessa when she was at that spa. Now, she deserved a little get back, because Kitty was getting a little beside herself. Excuse me. So it ended up, so then Hammer called again. So Hammer ended up calling again, and she ended up answering the phone. No, she called Hammer, and she basically was saying, how long had you been sleeping with her? And she wanted to know how many times. And, that's when Hammer got quiet. And she told him, don't lie, because she already knows. She just wanted to see if he was going to tell her the truth. And then she was like, and he was like, just so why you want to know that? She was like, okay, well, I'm gonna hang up. And then that's when he told her the night at the restaurant, right after she first got hired. Basically, he admitted. He said, you had on that short gold halter dress, and that's when she was basically remembering Lacey or Georgia, still in the bathroom. Remember Georgia? She ran into Georgia in that bathroom that day, where Lacey ran into the bathroom that day. Remember Hammer was standing outside in the hallway when she walked out of the bathroom, and he said that they had just shared a cigarette. Um, and then he was like, basically, she had already known, and she was observing their skill. Basically, she was observing how they were behaving around each other. So Lacey had already caught on to Jessa and Hammer having a relationship, and she was basically like, "Did y'all do it in the bathroom?" And he basically said, "Yeah." And she said her and Keegan had assumed that it was Charlie that was actually interested in him, and it wasn't actually that it was Charlie that was posing as her daughter and not actually Lacey. And he was like, you came back to the table fresh. No, she said, you came back to the table fresh after sleeping with another woman, probably still wet and smelling like her juices, and not even giving a damn that you were in my company, basically. And she basically was slapping herself, like, how was I so blind? And how did the player get played? And he basically said, I never deliberately tried to hurt you, and she didn't want to hear it. And he was talking about, I'm sorry. And she said she was done. And he said he was basically telling her, I'll prove to you the man that I am and the man that you want me to be, and all of this kind of stuff. And she basically said, you already proven to me the man that I don't want at this point. And so then she ended up leaving, telling him that the marriage was over. She reverted to her last name. I'm skimming through my notes trying to, let's see, don't ever disrespect my mother. And that's when who came up? She said he parked on the street on the outside of a laundromat, and she immediately climbed out to light her cigarette and take a deep inhale. And let me be clear, Robert, she said, reverting to his given name. The marriage is over and you'll not get one red cent. So she basically was telling him he wouldn't get another dime out of her, and that she couldn't wait to figure out a way to have all of this over and all of this kind of stuff, and look forward to the day that he was on a Greyhound bus headed back to California to be with his mom. Remember, she called his mama a biatch. And she was basically saying that F your mama with them no seasoning, having chicken feet that she was trying to cook in that clumpy gravy. Girl, I was crying. You hear me? And he was basically telling her, like, don't push me, Jessa. So she was doing all that she was doing and saying all she was saying, basically checked up the deuces, told him to kick rocks. She ended up ending the call. And then she ended up calling his mama. Remember, she ended up calling his mama and telling her that she was about to be her soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law. And the mama was like, praise the Lord. She was glad that it was... And she was telling her that she had an evil spirit, and telling Jessica that she had an evil spirit, and that she's the one that had led her son down the wrong path, and all of this kind of stuff. And it's always the mamas trying to blame women for the behavior of their sons, the same way Kitty was trying to do to Jessa about Eric. Y'all knew they was crazy. Y'all knew they was crazy, but it was good. It was a good read. Did y'all enjoy it? Because Jessa went back to her old ways. She was on her get back. She was doing, she said she tried to be the good girl. The good girl didn't happen for her, so she was back on her get back. Yes, she went to visit Pleasure. When I say she was like no holds barred, she went to visit Pleasure, and I was sitting there like, now why you do that? And then she talking about, did I almost just die again? So I was glad that she got what she got. Let me pull up our next book. Hold on one second. Let me pull us up our next book so I can put it on the screen. Our last and final installment is Her Pleasure, book number 6, y'all. Book number 6 is Her Pleasure. Let me pull it up so I can read our synopsis. Did y'all enjoy this read? How have you enjoyed this series thus far? It's been a pretty good series. It's been a pretty good series. Book number 6. Hold on. Let me share my screen so you all can see it. I can't wait till this one is over, this last book we read in this series, because oh my goodness, the next book, um, I'm introducing a new author. She is one of my faves, but it's a single. It's a single read. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, let's read the synopsis. Book number 6, the last and final installment of the Mistress series. Hold on one second. Okay. The last and final installment of this Mistress series is Her Pleasure. I don't know why I keep jumping in and off my screen. Okay, now I can see it again. Can you all see it? I don't know what's going on with StreamYard. It'll pop up there. It's up there now. Can you see it now? It's up there now and I can see it. Don't know what your view is. But it's Her Pleasure, the last installment of the Mistress series. After surviving a shattering betrayal by a former friend, Jamie Pine has every reason to celebrate. Stronger and savvier after her perfect marriage crashed and burned, Jamie now has Luke, a billionaire music mogul willing to give her everything, including a dazzling career and what looks like a forever happily ever after, until a no limits island vacation with her best friends turns up the last person Jamie ever expected to see again. Unforgettable Graham Walker, aka Pleasure, is an ex escort skilled at mind blowing sex. But now, after coming to terms with his own troubled past, Graham is a changed man, and Jamie finds him more irresistible than ever. Yet, after one last no holds barred night together and a connection that can't be denied, Jamie decides to finally put Graham in the past and move on with her new life as planned. She accepts Luke's proposal of marriage and then discovers she's pregnant. Oh, Lord. Torn and confused, Jamie spins a desperate web of half truth and lies of omission to protect both men and herself as she struggles to choose her path. But when her secrets explode in public, the choice is made for her. Can she deal with her mistakes honestly and do what's best for everyone? Oh my gosh. So it seems like Jamie is moving on with her new life. She's dating this new man, accepting his proposal, and then the infamous Pleasure pops up, and she gets pregnant. You know, they spin the block, have a little rendezvous. She gets pregnant. She don't know who the daddy gonna be. So, oh my goodness, Girl, it keeps getting better and better, right? It keeps getting better and better. It keeps getting better and better. So that will be our last and final installment of the Mistress series. We have been on a journey, y'all. This will be 6 months. Yes, this is going to be good. This will next month would be our 6th month of being at the Pink Table Book Club, y'all. We have read 6 books already. See how fast that go? It does not take long to actually go. And some of us can read faster than others can read a couple books at a time within the same month or what have you. But this will be the final installment of the mystery series. And then we have a standalone for our what's this for? This will be for March and for April. So for our April book club, we'll have a standalone book, which is really, 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 really an amazing author. And she has this next author, she has series as well. But I kind of want to give us a break from series for a little bit because we've read 6 months of this one author. So if it is another series down the road, I'll try to let it be 1 to 2 books at least, and not as many. But this has been a journey. This has been a great journey with this whole mistress situation. But we have done amazing. We have done amazing. We've read 5 books thus far. So Mistress for Hire, book number 5 is on. And yes, you know what, Lady Sweetness, I actually think that this is a series. I remember Teresa telling me that she watched the movie. So I think it was a movie on this. You can search it. Teresa couldn't be here today. She had to go to the hospital to see her father-in-law. But I remember, so I'm gonna ask her where did she watch the movie. So it's definitely a movie about this series. Lady Sweetness says this was an excellent series. Yes, it was. I thought it was really, really good. Really good. It kept us turning the pages. It kept us intrigued. We kept finding out more and more and more about each character and stuff. So it's really, really good. So I can't wait to see how. I'm interested in seeing how the author ends up actually closing it because again, this is the last book in this series. So I'm interested in seeing how she actually closes it out to end the actual series and giving us like a final recap of where everybody is in their lives after this installment. So it'll be interesting. Miss Lady says the first book, the movie was on Tubi. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, good. So we'll have to go find it, Lady Sweetness. It's a Tubi movie. I'll have to find out what the actual title is so that we can search for it. It would be good to see now, especially when you've read the book. It's easier to follow along with the movie so that you can kind of put faces to the characters' names and stuff that we've read about. So that'll be interested to see. That'll be interested to see. So thank you all for joining us for another Pink Table Book Club. I enjoyed you all. This was a great read. I really, really enjoyed it. Y'all see, I had my notes ready today. I had my notes ready. And next week, and I know I thought I said this, I may not. I'm going to drop the link. I'm going to start dropping the link so y'all can come up and discuss with me on the panel. So for our next one, y'all be prepared. Y'all can come up so that I'm not the only one doing it. So somebody else can come up and be with me as we go through the book and we talk about the book together. So I would love to have somebody to come and join me on the panel as we discuss the book. I think that'll be fun to do it that way. So y'all keep that in mind. I'm going to drop the link at our next one. So whoever want to come up and join me as we talk about it and discuss it, I would love to have you on the panel with me. It would be great. I enjoyed it. I had my notes ready, y'all. I probably had about 15 pages. I have to start reading early so that I can have time to like keep stopping and jot down notes of stuff so that I can remember. It's easy for me to highlight them when I'm in my Kindle, but I'll still have to go back to it. So it was easier for me to just write everything out. So I was able to just keep it moving so that we could move right along and make sure we weren't missing anything and to be able to touch base on everything. So it was amazing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our discussion. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in to another Pink Table Topics. Thank you for bringing your voices, your perspectives into our space. I love what we're building, us reading and enjoying, discussing lit and all of this together. We've had some great books thus far. But again, thank you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'm going to get the book posted so that you will be able to see it and know what the cover looked like when you go. It's over on Amazon, so you can go ahead and go get it and get started. I know some of us read faster than others, so you got time to go ahead and get it read before our next one, third Saturday in March. And again, sometimes I may have to like change the Saturday. And I intentionally set it for our original third Saturday, but sometimes, because y'all know how my business goes, I get booked for events on Saturdays. Weekends are like busy for my business. And if I happen to get booked, I may have to change it. So that be the reason why I be needing to change. But last week I was sick. I'm just getting back. I'm getting ready to get off here and go take some more medicine. But I'm just getting back to like feeling a lot better than I was. So that's why I had to change it last Saturday. So thank you all for being patient. Miss Lady says Message from a Mistress was the movie. Okay, that was the actual name. Okay, so Lady Sweetness, go find it on Tubi. Message from a Mistress was actually the name of the movie. So I'm gonna have to find it so I can try to watch it tomorrow. I'm definitely gonna have to try to find it. But again, thank you, ladies, for joining me here at the Pink Table. And remember, at the Pink Table Book Club, it's more than just about books, it's about sisterhood and community. Every page we turn sparks new conversations, new connections, and new inspiration. I love you all, and I'll chat with you all on the next one. Have a good day. Goodbye.